I'm excited for you to see today's 5 finalists. After presentations last week, we had 16 semifinalists, and those are coming out in email today. So you'll know if you were one of those. We're taking a picture tomorrow, so look cute if you were one of those, okay? And then those 16 were watched by a panel who determined this final 5. Many of those 16 were very good presentations, and we had to be very picky to narrow it down to 5. And these 5 you're going to see were chosen because of their projects, okay, not just their presentations. Each of these 5 finalists has a finished project that shows a semester's long worth of work, okay, a full semester's worth of work. All right, please notice how much information they have to share, that they have finished projects and they have proof of their efforts. All of these are characteristics we want to see in each of your projects next semester. Okay, so we're kind of setting the bar here, and I want you to pay attention to that and get a good feel for what we're looking for in an Explore project. Okay, I'd like to thank our judges today. In person, we have Katie Wenzel, and then on Zoom, we have Chris Panbacker, Rebecca Ferkey, and Bill Patterson. Okay, so we'll get started. Congratulations to these finalists and to all the semifinalists and to all of you who completed their project this year. Great job. I hope you enjoy their presentations. We'll start with Riley.
Hi, I'm Riley Dezine, and I'm a junior here at Washington. So I did my presentation over teaching through the years. I'm sure many of you know that it is sometimes hard to find a career. So if you're unsure of what you want to do, it's totally normal, and I totally understand. So basically, I use this project to find what I wanted to do for my future career after college. So I started my semester off by going to one of the kindergarten rooms over in our elementary, and I observed the students and the teachers. I also plan to take this presentation over to next semester as well. I plan on exploring more of the upper areas of elementary education. I found that I'm more interested in like the younger grades, but I'm going to go ahead and do the upper grades as well, just to say I tried it, and maybe I'll surprise myself and actually end up enjoying that age group as well. So to begin, I started off by going to one of the elementary classes, as I said, and I observed the teacher and the students. And so my mentor is Stacy Peters, and she's the kindergarten teacher over at one of them in our elementary. And she's super awesome, such a kind woman. The students love her, and I learned a lot. It was just super fun being in the classroom with her. So while observing the elementary students, I learned a lot about connecting with them. And for me, this is like super important in this career. And so you really need to be welcoming and excited to be there, and this will help the students also be equally excited to be there and ready to learn. You should also ask questions and be able to help get to know them better, and do the same. They'll do the same for you and ask questions. It just creates a better relationship and more trust. You should also share your life experiences. Believe me, they love to talk, and they love to hear about everything that you've accomplished and done, and they'll talk back about what they've done. Super fun. We should also be very encouraging. They have just flipped into a whole new environment, from being half day of preschool to a full day of kindergarten, kind of a big thing. So they get kind of frustrated easily, but just help them through their challenges and you should be good. So some research that I did was what content a kindergartner should know by first grade, as well as what an organized lesson plan consists of. So I talked to Stacy, and basically kindergarten, when you're teaching, you basically have competencies, I'm sure you're all familiar with. And so these are basically the competencies that kindergartners need to have accomplished before reaching first grade. So it's a huge detailed document, but Stacy and I narrowed down to a few. big ideas in a few areas that are pretty big. So the use of phonics skills to decode simple books, as well as communicating parts of the story, such as problems, characters, and the order of events. Writing a sentence starting with a capital letter, punctuation, as well as the correct spacing between words. Understands and identifies nouns and verbs. Solid understanding of numbers 0 through 30, as well as being able to write and count to 100 plus. A basic understanding of addition and subtraction, being able to identify both flat and round shapes, and then being able to cooperate and share with others. Like I said, very long, detailed document, but those are just some basic points. I created my own lesson and presented it to the kindergarten class, and so this is kind of what I came up with. I talked to Stacy, and she said being prepared is super, super important. So she likes to have her lesson planned too, so it's not like a week prepared in advance. Using this source right here, like the Scholastic Teachers one, I talked a lot about having a topic, standards, objectives, materials, and then the sequence of events from beginning to end. I didn't realize how detailed your lessons have to be, so I learned that you basically literally have to write your plan from beginning to end. You can also use the school, like the curriculum the school provides you with, which also helps a lot. So these are the 3 worksheets that I created. This first one over here was actually, my first lesson was comparing numbers 1 to 10. But, and I used like the less than or greater than sign with these little alligator heads. It was super cute and fun. But I showed it to Stacy, and she said it was a little too complicated for the kindergartners. So I made this second one, which is, I had like a greater group of sheets right there, and then less. And so they followed the directions, so they circled whatever I said, like it was the greatest amount. They circled that. And then I was quarantined, so this is kind of a little bump in the road for me. So I missed my day that I was supposed to present to the kids. So I went ahead and over quarantine, I created a new lesson and a new worksheet, a new activity, and then I quickly presented it once I returned back so I could hit that benchmark. So this is the one that I ended up doing, and it was over number of partners of 10. So after I presented my lesson, I had Stacy evaluate it. And some of the critiques that she had were that I needed to be a little more, I needed to give more state standards. I didn't give those competencies that I was talking about. I didn't give enough of those. So I went back through, and there was more than I thought. I also need to just like give more detail on my specific lesson summary. I also did not do a very good job of that. And I also didn't realize, like I said, very detailed, so you had to explain your lesson and your activity, which I didn't realize. So that was something that I learned throughout this. So I'm pretty positive that I love this career, and I'm super excited. So I decided to look into some of this, like the salary here in Kansas, which is about $46,133 to $66,797. And of course, this all depends on your location, the amount of schooling you have, your skills, and your experience. So those are will all impact like how fast you get a job and how much you get paid. So some colleges that I'm interested in are K-State University, Emporia State University, and Fort Hays State University. And at all of these, you can earn a bachelor's degree. And then from there, you can complete an internship or like a teacher's aide in the elementary classroom. And then take your state licensing exam for teachers. And then you can apply for your license and then go ahead and apply for a job. So I looked into these programs a little bit, and K-State's the one that I'm most interested in. And so I'm definitely going to still look into it and find out which one's the best for me. I'm hoping I can do some college visits at the beginning of this next year to help me make up that decision. So then some bonuses of this job would be like if I decide to have kids, when they're in school, we'll be on the same schedule. So like when I'm on break, they'll be on break. So no need for a babysitter, which is a plus. I will also have summers off, which I can maybe take up something that I love, like a hobby or something like that, or if I just want to have time with my kids. So So my reflection, what I did well, I thought I had great organization throughout this whole thing. Having to balance like my other classes and extracurricular with this, I thought I did a pretty good job. PBL is all new to all of us, so I thought that would be interesting at the beginning of this. And then what I would change, I wish I would have gave multiple lessons. I was in the kindergarten room 2 days a week, all semester, so I definitely could have given more lessons. But at the beginning, I didn't know like how long these lessons would take, and they ended up not taking too long, and I really love making them, so I wish I would have given more. And then what I learned like about myself, I learned that I have a little more creativity skills than I thought. I had a lot of fun making the worksheets and organizing some of the activities and stuff. That was super fun for me. And the portion, this is a very small aspect of the job, but decorating a classroom, definitely I have an interest in that. That sounds super fun, and that's something that I look forward to. So basically, at the end of this presentation, I can say that I am almost 100% sure that I want this to be my future career. I loved it, all aspects of this job. I'm so thankful that I had this opportunity, and I can't wait for next semester so I can see if I enjoy the upper levels of education too. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you. Does anyone have questions?
Judges, do you have questions?
Riley,
Yeah.
this is Mr. Bill Patterson. I'm a high school teacher. I was a high school teacher. I recently retired. I commend you for thinking about going into education, that's for sure. I didn't quite hear everything about when you got quarantined, what happened, and how were you able to make modifications to your plan, your organization, once you were quarantined.
So I talked to my mentor, and I told her what had happened, and then we talked about what they had coming up that was planned for lessons, and so she told me that the number of partners of 10 was coming up, so she told me some of the things that she needed me to do, and I just created my lesson while in quarantine, and then when I came back, I presented it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about what you loved and what your favorite things were. Is there anything that surprised you that you did not care for, that you ended up not liking?
Nothing that I experienced, but I guess one thing that kind of scares me is talking to parents, for teacher conferences and stuff. I don't want to mess up anybody's kids, you know what I mean? And I don't want to make anyone offended, to their kids, you know what I mean? So that's kind of something that I don't look forward to as much, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
You said you were in the classroom 2 days a week. Was that just during explore time?
Yeah, I actually went, I forgot to mention that, from Explore all the way to the end of the day, so it was 2:30 to 3:12 or whatever, so yeah.
Was there any flexibility with what they were doing in the room? Was that always the same thing they were studying at that time?
Yeah, it was always, I was in there for math, and then right afterward it was centers, so yeah.
Are you good? Here's your clicker. Okay, you can put that guy on it.
Hi, I'm Akila Juneman. I'm a junior, and my project was Moments to Money. Have you ever seen people's photos online or on social media, like on Facebook or Instagram? Well, I have, and I've seen some pretty creative ones. And so for my project, I decided that I wanted to learn how to do it. So my project, I took my interest in photography, which I've kind of had for a while, but like I haven't really had the time and equipment to actually fulfill it. And I just tried to turn it into like a little bit of money. So I planned to promote my business online and on social media, and then I also plan to receive feedback to help make my business better. So what I plan to learn? I planned to learn how to take professional looking pictures, be able to create my own style while also researching what the public style was, and then also researching what websites were best to sell my photos on based on reviews, cost, and how easy they were to navigate. So what I learned all the different kinds of cameras and how to properly use them, because there are many different kinds and they all have several different settings to use, so I learned all that. And then I learned many ways to edit a single photo, and then what websites to post and sell my photos on, the best way to promote, and the best way to organize my photos, and what different people's style was compared to what I like shooting photos of, what my favorite style was. So what I learned for taking pictures, there are many different things, but the three main things are angles, light, and the orientation of your photo, which are all very important when shooting photos. Camera settings, there are many different settings, like if you've ever seen a camera like that Miss Tool uses or something, there are many settings, but the three main ones are ISO, aperture, and shutter speed, and those all can affect your photo if they're not set right. And then editing, of course, there's a lot of things you can do to edit a photo. These are just some of the main ones that I messed with, like exposure, vibrance and saturation of color, and just easily cropping the photo. So for the websites I chose, I researched many different websites, and I picked 5 of the main ones because they were free or cheap to use for this project, and they were very easy to navigate. But other ones I did not choose were because I had to be 18, which I'm of course not 18 yet. They only went through an app, or they needed a personal website, which I did not have, or they cost more than I was willing to put in for this first project. So then to organize my photos, I took 3 main sites that I picked, and I took 2 decorative, which is like fancier photos, more something you would get in your house on a canvas or physically, which is what this one is. This is darkroom, and you can buy it on canvas, you can get it framed, or you can get it on metal, and it's like something you put in your house. Then this one is Etsy, and it's all digital, but it is still a decorative site. And then this is stock photos, so like more in business presentations, if you just want more of an object, this is like the site you would buy your photos from. So then to promote my business, I created a logo, and I put that logo on business cards. I made a flyer, and then I also posted a Facebook ad with the picture, with some sample pictures and my business card. For my feedback I received, this was on Darkroom, and as you can see, the spike was when I posted my Facebook ad, so obviously promoting helped get more views and stuff, and so that's throughout the month of November. And for people's favorited, most seen photos was the side view of the dam that I took. It had the most views at this time. So that's what more people like, so I kind of based off future photos off of what people view the most here. Then this is Etsy, this is the digital one. The same spike, promoting on social media obviously had a better impact on my views. And then on this one, the picture of the Rome bells had the most visits. It had 6 visits compared to others, so I just also used that to base it off my future photos. For also feedback, I created a Google Forms and I sent it out to 10, 15 people and I got some response back. And they really helped me better my style while also like what other people like. So this is feedback on the photos. And then I also got suggestions on future photos, like what I should take to help maybe sell somewhere. And then I have a video of some of my favorite photos that I took. And believe it or not, a lot of those I didn't have to travel far from. A lot of those were at like my house or around the school or down by the dam. I took many of those. So you don't even have to travel that far to take some pictures. And then my advisor gave me the great idea of adding words or quotes onto pictures that were related to the quotes. And this would be more on like physical products, like you get a canvas or something. And so I have these three, and then these two I added quotes on. So then my sources, I used this top website it gave me a whole list of all the websites, and I went through and researched each one and picked out those 5 that I ended up using, and then I had to do individual research on each website to decide how they sold the photos, their terms and conditions, and all that stuff. I watched several YouTube videos from this dude named Peter McKinnon, and he gave me a lot of tips on just how to use a camera because I had never used one before, and so that helped a lot. And then I also watched a couple where he gave just very basic editing tips. I read the Complete Photo Fundamentals Guidebook, which just went over the 3 basic things on the camera, the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. And then I talked to my mentor, Mrs. Toole, and they both helped me a lot because they both knew how to use a camera and I didn't yet. Oops. So for my mentor, that slide must have got deleted. But my mentor was Shelly Baxter, and her job is a photographer, and she helped me a lot. I'd ask her a question, and she'd send me out like a whole paragraph back. But basically, to sum it up, she gave me feedback on some of my photos that I'd sent her and suggestions on how to fix them. She suggested some selling websites that I could use, and I did use one, but I didn't use another one she used, so she gave me suggestions, and then I used what I needed. She helped me with my marketing strategy and pricing, which wasn't easy for her because she does more physical products and like prints stuff out and puts them in businesses, where I did mine all online. I didn't mess with any of the printing off or costs like that. And then she gave me editing and shooting tips and helped me create my own style of photography, which I like shooting more outdoorsy landscape photos, unlike I'm not really into the object stock type photos. And then she explained to me the difference between rights managed and royalty-free images. Rights managed is where you buy the image once and you can use it once, where royalty-free might be a little bit more expensive, but you can buy it once and use it as many times as you want. And so what I think went well was shooting photos because I just enjoyed it. That's why I kind of picked this project. What didn't quite go well was the selling part of it. I have that canvas that Mrs. Toole bought from me, and so that's the one I did sell. But I know I can't change this, but I also didn't like the editing part because you take a bunch of photos and then you sit at a computer for like an hour trying to edit them. But what I would change is I might I'm going to continue this project for next semester, and I'm going to try to be more physical and print them off and try to sell them in businesses like my mentor does. And then I would also increase my advertising because I only posted to Facebook ad once. I mean, it did help, but like, I feel like I could have done more to help me more. So I hope my presentation showed you that you can become your own photographer and how easy it actually is to sell your photos online. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you for that, Michaela. One of my questions is, did you have a budget when you set out for this? Did you say, this is what I'm willing to spend on the equipment that I need, on marketing, things like that?
Well, I didn't really have a budget to start out with. I was kind of trying to keep it at least low, like, because like this was just like at first it was just a school project. I didn't really want to spend any money on it, and I didn't really have to because Miss Tool let me borrow the yearbook cameras, and so I did that. And then most of the sites I used were free. There was one that cost a little bit of money, but it was low enough that it didn't like ruin my bank account or anything. It was a decent price. I could use that one.
Excellent. Well, I think you have a great eye and a future in photography should you choose.
Thank you.
Are you looking at investing in a camera of your own?
I think it would be nice, but to get a nice one, they do cost a lot of money, and so I don't know. I think maybe if I got enough of maybe starting out, if I got enough of these sold, I could probably save up for half of it and then pay. It would be an interest that I could see myself doing, but it all does cost a lot.
You can grab one. The next one set up. Let's see who's next. Katie. What? Is she using the easel then too for hers? Or do you want the easel for yours? We're gonna set them on there.
Who was the kid from Canada?
You can just hand it. You can hand it to her. Or do you want to put that on these?
Some
I think you
kid
should
that
talk.
is from Missouri. Had me from my friend's house. Like,
Just set them here and then.
very other people.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to hold this one. Why don't you just use this? All right.
Shelby, put your mask on.
Okay, ready?
Hey, thanks. I'm smiling. I can barely get my hands. So am I. So am I. I'm smiling. We're all smiling. Why do you have succulents?
What?
Why do you have succulents?
Those aren't mine, but I did get one for Christmas from Mrs. Cooper. Although mine's like half dead.
Probably because you can't keep anything alive. Like
She
that.
gave it to me half dead.
Like that pound of hamburger you had in your purse one day? Why'd you have a pound
Hi,
of hamburger in your
my name is Katie Toole, and I'm a sophomore at Washington County High School. And for my PBL project, I decided to create a children's book. So you may be familiar with some of these popular children's books. Goodnight Moon, Where the Wild Things Are, Green Eggs and Him, and Izzy the Cowgirl Corgi. Well, you probably aren't too familiar with that last one, and that's because it's a new children's book that I have written and illustrated myself. So, before I show you my final project, I'm going to tell you about my process. So the first thing that I did was I spent money. I bought a Huion Canvas 20, which is basically like a really big tablet that you can draw on and then connect it to your laptop or desktop. And the cool thing about it is when you draw on it, you can actually see what you're drawing. And the reason I chose to purchase one is because there's a YouTuber that I watch, and his name is Jazza, and he uses a Huion, and he just creates like really cool characters and just draws with it, and it's really cool. So while I was waiting for my Huion to arrive, I started to create my story. So I knew I wanted my story to be about my dog. My dog's name is Izzy. She's 3/4 Corgi and 1/4 Australian Shepherd, which is also known as a cowboy Corgi, which is where I got the title for my book and the overall theme for it, which is like a Western, cowboy stuff. So from there, I started to create my plot. I had 2 ideas. One was where Izzy was personified, and she walked on 2 legs and lived in a town of other dogs. And she was the sheriff of that town, and then she'd save the day. And then the one that I went with was where Izzy's the pet of the sheriff, and she has to stop the bad guys and save the day. So from there, my story kind of evolved in a weird way. I knew what I wanted my bad guys to look like first. I sketched them out, and then I figured out how Izzy would stop them. So then I just kind of wrote my story around those things. So my book ended up being 28 pages long with 28 individual pictures. Each illustration took me about 90 minutes, give or take. So overall, I think I spent about 70 hours just drawing the pictures. This is a time lapse of me coloring in one of the pictures that I made. So you can see how it starts off with just like a sketch and an outline, and then I fill it in. So this whole thing is about 30 seconds long, but in reality it took me about an hour and 30 minutes just for one picture. So during this process, I also had to do some research. I researched layouts of Old West towns for the pictures in my book. Like one of the pages in the story has the layout of the town in it, so it's one of those big things that I needed. I also looked up cowboy slang because, it's in the Old West, so I needed to talk like cowboys. I also got a lot of help from my mom, the art teacher. She helped to critique some of my artwork. I also got a lot of help from my advisor, Mrs. Peterson. She helped proofread the story, which I made a lot of mistakes, but good thing I have her. I also got a lot of help from my mentor. Her name is Frankie Duncan, and she also writes children's books and then gets them self-published. She's published 2 books, but she doesn't actually illustrate hers. But she has helped me a lot through this process. She's given me a bunch of information about publishing, which is something I'm hoping to do with this book. So I've been working on this project since August, and I believe that I am finally at a point where I've created a finished book. So I would like to hand it over to the famous Mrs. Peterson, English teacher extraordinaire, to read my book.
Izzy, the Cowgirl Corgi, written and illustrated by Katie Toole. Welcome to Saddle Summit, home of Sheriff Stone and his prize-winning Mustangs. In town, you'll find the Saddlebag General Store for all your supplies, the Lucky Shoe Saloon to wet your whistle, and the Horse Blanket Hotel for a nice, soft bed after a long trail ride. The Golden Horse Bank is here to keep all your earnings safe. and the Saddle Summit Jail to keep all them pesky varmints off the street. And then there's Izzy. Izzy is Sheriff Stone's dog. Not that the sheriff notices her much. When he's not rounding up bandits, the sheriff is always taking care of his Mustangs. He's feeding them. Here you go, my beauties. Brushing them. Gotta look your best. And cleaning their toenails. Best keep these flip-floppers sounding great. There ain't nothing the sheriff wouldn't do for them there horses. The sheriff's Mustangs were known all over the territory for always bringing in the bad guys. Bandits far and wide feared the sound of their highly manicured clip-clop. I'm real afraid. The sheriff made sure the Mustangs' famous clip-clops were well cared for by sending them to Nay's Salon and Spa every month for a pedicure. Off you go, my prize-winning clip-cloppers. One day, some no-good, nasty crooks got wise. The Bad Bunch, Greedy Gus, Lanky Luke, and Jughead Jug, robbed the Golden Horse Bank while the Mustangs were off getting their monthly pedicures. Blow the safe, boys! They held up the bank, blew the safe door, and took off with all of Saddle Summit's hard-earned money. They loaded it up in a wagon and headed for the hills, free and clear. Where are those fancy clip-cloppers now? Sheriff Stone was beside himself. How would he ever catch the Bad Bunch without his clip-clopping horses? They'll have my badge and my horses. Izzy knew just what to do. She would stop the Bad Bunch herself. She grabbed her red bandana and off she went. Gotta get those bad guys and save the town. She caught up to the Bad Bunch and the wagon full of money at Philly Falls. Izzy had a plan. She would use her corgi cuteness to earn the Bad Bunch's trust. And that's just what she did. She pat-patted right up to their campfire, wearing her cutest smile and wiggling her most adorable button-up wiggle. Pat, 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 pat. What's that noise? It's not a flip-flop. It's more of a pat-pat. Aw, look at that cute corgi. I am overcome by your cuteness. Don't get distracted now, boys. As the Bad Bunch ate their dinner around the fire, Izzy snuck into the wagon and grabbed a bag of Saddle Summit's money. She pranced past Luke, wiggling her button up all the way. That's our money! Get that dog! Izzy stopped next to the falls, taunting the Bad Bunch with a bag of money. Luke took after Izzy like a steam engine as he reached to grab the bag. At the last second, Izzy bobbed to the left, and over the falls went Luke. One down, two to go. Seeing a branch sticking out over the falls, Izzy threw the money bag she was carrying, and it caught the branch. Greedy Gus, worried about the money, leaned over the side to get it. Seeing the opportunity to put the odds in her favor, Izzy tinkled on the ground under Gus's boots. The dirt turned into mud, and Gus slipped right over the edge of the falls. Are you okay, boss? One more left, and this one's easy. Izzy jumped up and gave Judd one quick bop, and over the falls he went. Izzy grabbed the money bag, threw it back on the wagon, doused the fire, because that's smart, grabbed the reins of the horses, and headed back to Saddle Summit. As Izzy brought the wagon into town, the townspeople began to cheer, "Yay! Whose dog is that? Wow, what a cute corgi!" Izzy handed the reins to the sheriff and finally got all the attention she had always wanted. And more, since it's now the Shaggy Dog Saloon, the German Shepherd General Store, and the Puppy Post Office. The end from Corgiville. But I'll get that corgi if it's the last thing I do.
I hope you guys enjoyed my story. Here are some of the actual pages just printed off, just so you can see the size of them, if you guys can see that. So in review, I learned a lot through this process. I learned new software. The software that I used Autodesk, which is a free software, and I used it to draw all of my pictures. I also used Adobe InDesign to put all the words on each page and to put the thought bubbles on the pages. I also learned that writing a book is hard and it takes a lot of time, but hopefully it'll pay off. If I did this again, I'd probably go a lot faster, just because I've done it before and I'm more familiar with all my software. And also during this process, I made a few mistakes. One of the biggest ones was when I was drawing my pictures on the software, the resolution was too low, so we had to fix that. And all the pages, we had to make the pages smaller. And that created a lot of last-minute chaos because I was supposed to be done with the book, but now I wasn't. So in the future, I plan to go into either graphic design or illustration. And next semester, I also plan to market this book after I publish it during winter break. I am also considering writing a sequel to this book and just to keep writing it. And hopefully, I'll get a good book out of it. Thank you. Are there any questions?
What age group are you expecting students to read that?
Well, I was thinking, this is more of a book that, a parent would read to their kid. So, just, read younger ages, who still are struggling to read. But if a child did want to read it, it'd probably be a little bit older, I don't know.
Kitty, what do you enjoy most about illustration?
I really like the creativity about it. I can draw whatever I want, really. And at least for this book, it was about my dog, so I had to draw my dog all the time. But, she's really cute, so.
Thank you.
Question for you as well. Tell us a little bit about how you found your mentor and the relationship and how that developed and how that interaction between the two of you went.
So, how I found my mentor, she's actually a friend with my grandma, and my mom knows her, so she she gave me her number and email, so then I contacted her. As far as communication goes, I tried to email her every week, and then I also asked her a lot of questions about publishing because I knew nothing about that. And then I also sent her, I sent her some of my illustrations so she could see them. And then when I finished my book, I sent her just the layout, the PDF of the book so she could see it.
Thank you. You're very talented.
Thank you. Abby? Kind of. I've thought about it. So the overall idea is that Izzy's going to be the main character in all the stories, and then the bad guy, that greedy guy, will be the bad guy. But I was thinking it'd just be set in different situations, one could be in space, or in the caveman times or something like that.
Mrs. Tula, I cannot imagine ever setting the resolution too low.
I know.
I've never done that in my life.
You understood that.
She
no,
said
when
that,
she
and
said
I
that.
just had a flashback to all of my yearbook pages who are at a 75 resolution.
And that's the kind of panic she had, Shay, because she was like, oh crap, I got to do them all over.
Huh?
But what we did, that's the panic she had because we thought she was going to have to do them all over again. And she had to. Smaller, so that worked. So it was okay.
That's good. That's good.
All right. This is cool.
I messed up and closed the entire thing.
Well, you don't have notes? You're supposed to have notes? I gotta stretch out. Yeah, I'm
You're gonna lose some.
What? Yes, I'm back.
My butt hurts.
Are you ready?
Someone walk over there and turn the lights on.
Hello everyone, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm Koi Song, and for my PBL, I did a business venture, and I called it Shock 'em All Electric Fence Company. So what my PBL is, it is construction and tearing down of electric fence for farmers in our area. And for those of you who don't know what an electric fence is, it is basically a 1 or 2 wire electrified fence that is temporary, and you can put it around stalks or winter wheat, and you can turn livestock on it for winter, and it helps free up lots and pastures. And for my PBL, the farmers must supply the fencing supplies, and once the fence is built, I will not be performing maintenance on it, and I'll also confirm that the fence is in working order before I leave the site, and the site will be ready for livestock to be turned out on upon completion. So how I got this idea, I basically recognized that farmers in our area struggle to find time during harvest to build an electric fence because it's a very tedious project and harvest can last a very long time. And if you're like my father, he gets very grouchy if harvest lasts a long time. So, and I also recognize that local farming community is an older generation, and I feel like this would be a great idea because I'm younger and just yeah. Okay, my mentor is Jake Pannebacker, and he is a local agriculture and livestock producer. And how I know Jake is because he is a neighbor of mine, and he has also fed cattle for my family for many years now. And what he has done for me is he has helped critique my business plan, and has also given me pointers on building a better electric fence. And how I kept in contact with him is I called him sometimes, but mainly it was text because knowing that he's an agriculture producer, he's pretty busy, and when I text him, he can just get back to me when he has time. So I felt like that was the most reliable thing to do. Okay, and the research that I've done, well, I've already gained a multitude of knowledge because I built many fences, electric fences in in the past few years, but you're always learning as you go. And so I also obtained most of my knowledge from my dad Curtis and my mentor Jake and the John Kern. And I also use websites that help demonstrate certain things. And here's a website, and it's from the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. And here is some prices that they put on fences similar to electric fence. I think this is like high tensile fences that they use, but it helped set a price for my business. So that website helped me out greatly. Okay, and so here's a cost to a farmer. I made up my mind to do $1.25 per post, and that is $1 to drive a post, which is your regular rebar post. And because using a hammer, that can be very tricky, and it's very tedious. And then I only did 25 cents to pull a post, because that's a pretty easy thing to do. And then here's an example that I've done, and this is for a half section of electric fence that we had built around a field, and that's about 15,840 feet. And if you build a fence like how I build one, I do a post every 20 to 25 feet. And if you calculate that, that is 633 posts for a half section. And you take that times $1.25, that gives you around $790. And here's a business plan I've created to help basically describe my business. So I'm just going to skim over this business plan real quick. So I started out with a company description, or executive summary, excuse me. And what this is like how this is going to help my community, like for the farmers in our area, and basically just what my business is. And then a company description, and that's just describing my business and what all it involves. And then the industry analysis, and that just describes what kind of it's like the agricultural industry, and it's also part of construction. And so that kind of describes that in there. And then my target market, and that is who I'm trying to market my electric fences to. And that, of course, is my farmers in the area. And then the competitive analysis, business-wise, I don't think there's anyone around here that builds electric fence, but you always have to deal with your regular farmer. So, getting them trying to hire me. And then marketing plan and sales strategy. And I kept this one real short because I'll use social media, word of mouth, and then, your regular flyers and like Casey's and short stuff. And my operation, and this is just like what I'll be using to help make my operation run smoother. And then the management organization, like, bookkeeping, like it says there, and all the accounts and things like that. And then my long-term development, and like that, I describe in there, like where this business could take me in the near future, like building 5-wire, barbed wire fences, or even pipe fences, things like that. And then my financials. And that is all it contains in my business plan. Alright, and here I'm going to tell you the basics of building an electric fence. And of course, you build the fence to the farmer's specs, but this is how I build an electric fence. So first off, I start off by driving a T-post in every one of your corners, like your low spots or your bends, things like that. And then once that's all done, I tie a wire off one of the posts, and I have the reel of wire on like an electric fence winder, and you just drive and unreel the wire. And then once your whole wire is through the field, you go through with your rebar post, and I make sure that the insulator is already on the post, and then I put the wire in the insulator, and then I drive the post, because I just find it a lot easier to do it all at once, because you're trying to put the wire on the insulator, you're twisting the wire, and it makes it a lot more of a tedious project. And when I drive the post, I do every 13 steps, but if you're like my dad, it's every 8, but it's around 20 to 25 feet, don't really matter. And then Once all my fence is built, I connect the wire to a fencer, and then I make sure it's working, and I confirm it to the farmer, and the job is complete. All right, and there are three main types of fencers. So your first one is your hardwired electric fencers, and for these you must have like a cord which takes a source. So it's not a very good fencer to have like clear out the country away from a barn or anything like that when you don't have a source. But then there's your battery powered fencers, and this takes like your regular car battery, and then I find those probably the most handiest and always work the best. And then your solar powered fencers, and these are also really good because who doesn't love solar power? But these can also cause you a lot of mechanical issues. Alright, and some technology and equipment that I use. So I use my basic hammer for driving the rebar post, and then your T-post driver, and then here, like here in the picture, I show an electric wire winder, and this makes the job a whole lot easier. And then in the middle picture is a fault finder, and that just finds all your faults in the fences. And then you also, it's a lot easier if you use a UTV or ATV, because if you're using a pickup, you're getting in and out, and it can make it very difficult. So I just find it a lot easier to use a smaller vehicle. And then your basic leather gloves, because you don't want to smash your finger. Things I learned from my PBO project is, for one, my presentation skills I feel like have improved greatly. And also, how to build an electric fence, like a better electric fence. You know, I'm always learning. And then I also learned that I have a higher tolerance for electric shock. And I also learned this business takes a lot of time, especially during a busy time of year, because most people, you know, hardest time is during football season. And, you know, towards the end of football season, you're not getting home until dark, you know, finding time and things like that. And I got quarantined 3 times this year, so things like that. And then the overall safety, like, has improved, I feel like. What I would do different, so next semester, I'm going to try to find a project I can do more of in school, because building an electric fence, you got to leave the school a lot to do. And I feel like that's not the most ideal thing. And I also discovered, like, you know, time management. I feel like, because I discovered that in dry years, like this year, fall was very dry, and posts are very difficult to drive on hard ground, and I wasn't really setting time for that. And then, you know, getting your ground to work, because dry ground, things like that, makes it very difficult. And so I feel like my time management is something that I would do different. And my conclusion, so I feel like this is a good idea, but I just lack time. Like I said, football season. And then I feel like this would be a great project for high schoolers that are not in sports. And also found that my father does not pay his offspring. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, I guess when you were going through the fee structure, did I understand correctly that your fee, the $1.25, was for putting in the fence as well as removing the fence?
Yes.
Okay, and then did you have a maintenance fee in there? Is that something that you were willing to provide for clients to go back and just make sure that the fence is in working order?
I guess I did not, but I feel like since it's their fence, I mean, I'm just building it for them, and, you know, them checking on their cows constantly, I just feel like they could be, like, they should be able to check their fence. I don't know, I feel like that'd be a tedious thing to do, just constantly checking on fences for them. But in the near future, if that comes up, I'd be willing to do that.
I have a question.
Yes.
What do you think the minimum startup cost would be for a business like this if they were starting from ground zero?
Ooh, that's tough.
A lot of equipment to buy?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, most of the equipment that we have, it makes it quite easy, but they're very expensive things. And you don't have to have all that stuff. You know, like your fault finder, you can just use a regular hammer on the wire and the post and just see if you're getting spark. And that'd be cheaper. And your wire winder, I mean, you wouldn't have to have that. You can usually, it's a very hard thing to do, but you walk through the field with a roll of wire on a post and drag the wire, but, you know, it's whatever. Yeah.
So how many times did you get hired?
Well, let's see. Mainly it's stability from my father, but like some of his friends, like I got the word out to him. So, like I think I would say 2 or 3 times. Yes. So usually, you know, it's after corn stalks or winter wheat. So it depends how many cows you have out on the field or how long you have it, but I would say like 2 or 3 months to the max, maybe. Any other questions?
You said you didn't have a lot of time to do it. Did you ever consider finding the jobs and marketing the business and hiring someone else to actually do the work?
Yes. But being a high school student, I struggle to find money, so.
You said you.
In your business plan, did you address what you're going to do with the fence and supplies after that 3 to 4 month period of time frame?
Yes. Basically, it's just help tear it down and take it back to the farmer and, you know, have it organized in the shed for the farmer so he's not having to deal with it later on in the year.
Okay, thank you.
Just say, you said you've had problems with mechanical issues with solar fencers, things. What are some of those issues that you're aware of?
So, like, I noticed like some of the solar-powered fencers that we have, it takes a lot smaller battery, and I think trying to get it to charge, because car battery is pretty big, and these batteries are quite smaller, so I think just trying to get it charged to them is the main problem. Yes. I guess I have not, but that'd probably be a good thing to do in the near future.
My name is Kirsten Olette. I'm a senior year here at Washington County High School. Today I'm going to be talking to you about my first semester PBL project. So my big idea was a travel guide to Germany, and I chose this because I am planning on taking a trip to Germany this coming summer. I also made it to help other travelers, specifically solo travelers and people that are traveling for their first time, even in a group. because I would be traveling by myself, and I kind of wanted some pointers to travel, and I figured some other people would too. So my detailed questions starting off were, what phrases should people be able to say and read in the other language, specifically Germany for this one. Number 2 was, what cultural information should people know? Number 3 was, what are some useful tips for packing and traveling when you are going by yourself? And number 4 is, what should people know in case of an emergency in a foreign country? So I'm going to talk about my mentor first. His name is Logan Gabi. He is the international admissions rep at K-State. He is actually Amy Anderson's son. She works in the district building for us, and she's really nice. Her son's just as nice. He really helped me out a lot with some of the traveling things because listed are all of the countries he's been to. He has been to 50 countries, and I had to count them all, and they are all really cool. He's told me about a couple of his travels, specifically to Germany and places in Europe, because they kind of pertain to where I'm going. So gathering information, I mainly use 2 people and a lot of things online. Shirley was a foreign exchange student here my freshman year of high school. She was a year older than me, and we really got close when she was here. She helped me a lot with translating phrases and a lot of the cultural differences. So the phrases that I sent her, she just translated directly. So if people read this and read them directly from the book, it will sound very American to them because it will be termed in like our lingo. The cultural differences she really helped with because she lived in the US for about a year. Before she came to our school though, she lived in Nebraska for a little while, but I think she was at our school until like November of our school year. And there's a lot of things in Germany that they do really differently, but I will talk about that a little later. So then Logan helped me a lot with the packing trip tips, the traveling tips, and the emergency information. He gave me a lot of things that he does for safety in other countries and that he gets to do through K-State, which was really cool to learn about. And then some things that I got offline were some packing tips, traveling tips, and ultimately most of the emergency information because Logan just gave me like websites or links that I could go look at for all of the stuff that he uses. I mainly got them off of YouTube or blogs of travelers, which is really cool. I did this at the very, very beginning though, so I didn't have a chance to like write down or remember who they were. I just wrote down what they said. So the programs that I use Photoshop a lot to make the clip art and some of the more detailed pictures that I have. I used Adobe Illustrator to make silhouettes of pictures that I really liked. And I used Publisher to put together my booklet as a whole because it was a really nice program that I learned to use in 8th grade. So that was fun to use again. So now I'm going to show you my finished product. The booklet is about 10 or 12 pages long, and I have a video of it on YouTube. So the front cover is really short in the video. It has the title, the page, a passport picture, and an airplane clip art. That was my table of contents and the countries that speak German. These are my important phrases to know and the numbers. So I have like what time is it, where's the nearest ATM, where's the bathroom, things like that. And then so people know how to read the German phrases, I put the alphabet and how to pronounce all of them, including like some of the words that are about times, like good morning, afternoon, this week, next week, things like that I thought might be helpful. So the packing tips I really like because, like at the very top, the clip art up there of different outlets. Germany has a completely different outlet than we do. They just have like 2 circles. So if you're going there and you're taking a computer or something like that, you have to have an outlet adapter, which I did not know. They have a type C adapter, I believe, and we have like a type B, which there's a lot of different ones, but those is what I found that Germany has versus us. I also made all of the clip arts on this page, and this one
was the one that, in the whole book that took me the most. I'm the most proud of that one. It took me about 2 days during PBL to make, and it was really fun putting all the little different stickers on the suitcase, and the little paper airplane was cool too. I also incorporated the paper airplane in my map, which is from Kansas to Germany because that's where I'm traveling to and from. This is recording, so I have to wait for it to flip. Sorry about that. A couple of the packing tips are like, take a carry-on, like in your carry-on, take a like extra pair of clothing just in case your luggage gets lost in the overseas travel. Some traveling tips, I have like, never carry your passport with you, either leave it at like the hotel in the safe or have a copy with your family at home, so if you do lose it, they can send you a picture. In the top right corner, I have a clip art that I made of a bunch of different German sites that you can go see when you're there. They also have a lot of castles, which is really cool to me because they're all really beautiful. It was just really hard to try and make a silhouette of castles that looked cool still, so I went without those. Okay, so about the culture was really cool to me because there's a lot of different things that are different between here and there. One of the main things is that they are not, like nothing is open on Sundays. Not a single thing, not a single store. Everything is closed. It's like a family time, but that was weird to me. And they are also a lot more formal than us because the US kind of has people that would like go into public in pajamas or just not really care about their appearance as much. But in Germany, it is a lot more formal there. You need to be punctual. If you are on time, you are late. Everywhere, it doesn't matter where. Even just meeting up with friends, they will find it very insulting if you show up on time, which I also thought was weird. I included a picture of some of their more famous food from there, like pretzels, which I personally love, bratwurst, things like that, are really cool. And another thing that was weird to me was they have this highway that's like an interstate. It's called the Autobahn. There are stretches of the Autobahn that there is no speed limit. So people would take their Jaguar cars or their really fancy sports cars there and go like 220. And Shirley said it was terrifying when she drove on there for the first time because people were just kept passing her and passing her. It sounds kind of scary to me too. So emergency information, I really like this page and I put it towards the end of the book so that people could easily flip to it. One of the main things that I liked learning about was the U.S. Embassy in different countries and also the consulates that I did not know were a thing before this project. So consulates are basically small embassies. Embassies are always in the state or the country capital of other countries. The consulates just tend to be in larger towns or cities that have a big population and are known to be like tourist country, like cities. Germany has one embassy and 5 consulates spread throughout the country. Something else that I thought was really cool was that instead of 911, they use 112. So I put that in black bold because I figured if you were really an emergency, that would be important. So I wanted to draw people's eyes to that. So then on the right page, I kind of just have a little summary of what the consulates can do for an American citizen in a foreign country. They can do anything from emergency assistance, federal programs, local resources, and if you do lose your passport, they will help you out and they can print them there at the embassy. Logan also told me a lot about the STEP program, which he personally doesn't use, but it kind of helps the U.S. keep track of its citizens, kind of, so that if something were to happen, like people that were overseas when COVID really hit this spring, they can like notify you personally and tell you that you need to get on an early flight and you need to get out of there as soon as possible in case some world emergency happens. And then on the last page, I just have a cute map to kind of make sure that people know where things are if they don't have their phone, I guess. What I learned by doing this project, I learned a lot about the German culture that I never even really thought about before. I learned a lot about embassies and consulates. I learned a lot about the STEP program, which I hopefully am able to use because I think it sounds like a really smart idea, especially since I'm traveling by myself. And the tips and tricks that I learned, I think are going to be super helpful when I'm traveling by myself and just going to different countries. They're really helpful, in my opinion. And then what went well and what didn't go well. So gathering information went really well. It was a lot easier to just talk to people rather than relying completely on the internet to get information. Talking to my mentor went really well. We Zoomed a few times throughout the semester, and it was always really helpful. He always kept me thinking about what I wanted to accomplish and what I had already done. And assembling it as a whole was fairly easy. It went really smoothly. All I had to do was decide the terms and the fonts and the sizes that I was going to use and where I wanted to put my pictures. What didn't go well? So instead of using the German alphabet, I was originally just going to translate it and then have the pronunciation for the whole phrase. I tried to find a German dictionary or a German to English dictionary to get the phonetic pronunciations, but then I got quarantined and I couldn't find anything online, and it just really was a tough time for me, and I couldn't end up getting it. Nothing just worked out right. Another thing that kind of sucked was the time differences between me and Shirley, because there's about a 7-hour time difference between here and Germany. So if we were talking, it was either 1 or 2 in the morning at either place. It just kind of was hard. Thankfully, I'm kind of a late person anyway, so it did end up working out. What I like about my final product, I really like how simple it is. I like that I chose to go with black and white and silhouettes at that, because I think it just looks a lot simpler and people aren't too distracted by the pictures and they can kind of focus on the words better. I also think those are the reasons that it looks really professional. It doesn't look like a little kid threw it together or just kind of wasn't caring about it. Throughout the book, I also use paper airplanes in most of my pages. I have it on the front cover and on that clip art that I really liked that I made, and on the map, and on a couple other pages. I also like the clip art that I chose to put in. I think that each one that I put on the page really fit well, and I like the length of my booklet. If it would have been any more than like 12 pages, I feel like it would have been too long, or the reader would have thought there was too much information on their pages, and it probably could have been a lot longer, but I think what I put in there was the most important things. What I would change, I would try even harder to get the pronunciations for each phrase in there, but I'm glad with the solution that I came up with putting the alphabet in there. On page 6, the map at the very bottom, I probably would have changed that a little bit just because it's probably the most unprofessional looking thing in my book. And I would have tried a different program just to learn something new and kind of get comfortable with something else, because I did just use a program that I was comfortable with and knew how to use because I thought it would be the fastest. And that is my presentation. So I did forget to mention that I don't necessarily plan on publishing it, but I do plan on sharing it. Over winter break, I'm going to try and find a program so I can publish it online, kind of. And then there is 2 copies in our high school library right now. There's one by the Globe in there, and then there's one by our college pamphlet area, booklet area kind of thing. I figured that those 2 places would be really nice for it. And I'm also going to try over winter break to get a booklet put into our public library, but I'm probably not going to sell them. I'm just going to give them to libraries if they want some. And for your second question, I thought about doing some for other countries, but it'd almost be, the only pages that would really be different are like the cultural pages and then the pages with like where the different embassies are, and then the alphabet and the different phrases in a different language. So I don't know if that would, I haven't really thought about it a lot. There's not really a lot of things that would be different. It would be cool, but I only have one semester left, so I'd only be able to cover one more country.
You mentioned the Audubon as a mode of transportation. Did you find in your research other means of transportation modes and how the German people interact with those modes of transportation or anything like that?
So I know that they have used trains a lot in Germany, and their train system tends to be a lot better than like our country's subway system. And my friend personally doesn't use them though because she just started driving, or her parents would drive her because her family is a little wealthier. But I think the common person generally uses the train system that they have there because it works really well, and they're generally on time.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, guys.